Think we're good.
Okay. Oh yeah, it shows at the top. Wonderful. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this July 22nd, 2025 edition of the Cross Project Council. And we'll start as we usually do, asking if there are any announcements.
I always have to put in a plug for JS Conf in October. Get your tickets because the hotel block, I think, is about 75% full. So grab those tickets now and get your hotel block. Of course, there's other hotels in the neighboring towns, but you'll want to be on site for sure. You can. Maintainers
All
get
right.
a discount, the early bird discount. Kylie has posted a code everywhere, but if you don't see it, give any of us a shout and we'll pass it along.
Wonderful. And I forgot to mention, but the doc is in the chat. So if you haven't added your name to the doc, please do that. Any other announcements? None? All right. So we can move to the board meeting updates. So we had promised last call to actually have an update this week, and we don't, but I think we have a next board, which is this Friday. So that means that we can sort of like try to catch up everything in the bundle 2 weeks in the CPC call 2 weeks from now. And we should really make the commitment to do this. Joe?
Yeah, I just wonder if we should maybe throw something on the calendar for us folks that are in the meeting next week, early next week, and we can quickly throw something together for the CPC.
I think that is a good idea.
Awesome.
What about we find some time after or before the working session next week
Okay.
for this?
All right, I'll start a
Would that
chat.
work? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. Staff updates. I don't think we have anything that has changed from the last time, and I'm not expecting much to have, sorry, in the middle of July. But I think that there was loopback, which I'm not assuming there's updates. Oh, the GitHub Dev Connect program, where you, Robin, and Kylie able to make progress on this.
Yeah, I met with Abby or talked to Abby about it, and she's providing some feedback to the team. And she said, I think she thinks it was more intended for like your traditional sort of meetups, like the meetup.org type of meetups, but she is providing some feedback. So have not heard
All right,
back from
cool.
that team. Yeah.
So this is moving forward,
Yeah.
but we don't have like much to act upon
Report, right.
yet. All right, cool. I'm looking at like if we have any other things. I don't think so. And so we should directly go into the main part of the agenda. Um, and so the first one is 1510. That's the organization of a Webpack hackathon. And I think this was a call um, a few weeks ago by Claudio to ask for people that had experience in those to share that experience. Um, is there?
Claudio posted in some of the Slack channels. I also gave them names of folks who helped organize like the Grace Hopper events and the Node School event. So Claudio is following up there. I don't know if they've heard back though.
So is this something that we can close or maybe remove the cross-project council label on?
Perhaps.
Because I'm not exactly sure what the ask from us is here at this point.
Mhm.
Oh no, Wes, you're just saying bye to someone that's leaving? Yeah.
I'm in the office since don't be,
All
I
right.
could
Yeah,
throw
you're
video
waving
off.
at
So
people. You're
my
not raising
wave
your
does
hand.
not,
All
it
right,
does
cool.
not look like I'll turn the camera off.
No, no, we love your face. Um, all right. So no, I mean, would people be uncomfortable closing it, or like asking what the next we can do? Because I don't want to spend like every CPC call on this if there's nothing more we can do on it. Are you for real?
So now I am
Wes?
raising my hand. Yeah, I'm actually raising my hand now. The only thing that would be nice would be is if we wanted to close it, request a follow-up on how it went. I think it's a really neat idea. I don't know, if that's something that like Express would want to do. But it certainly seems like it could be a really neat thing. So if there's, some learnings and some resources that we could, share with the group, that would be, to me, the best outcome there.
Okay, it sounds great. I'm typing something along the lines of like, do you get the kind of feedback you wanted? Are you running it? And if so, would you be willing to share your learnings with the CPC? And CPC notes from today's call. All right, we can move to. All right, and so leave it open so we can have answer to those questions. Moving to the next item on the agenda, and this was 1509 is AI assisted development allowed. Sort of the follow up here. I think we had the chat chatted about this last call. And I didn't copy the discussion notes into the issue itself, so I don't have exactly what we decided. But my understanding was we'd like to do something of that nature. And the first order of business was to actually ask the kind of questions we had and get those together, and then maybe bring those to legal. I think that's the conversation that we had. Chris? No, you didn't it sounded like you were like about to say something, and then
Oh, I was just saying we did talk about this at the previous meeting.
oh, that was it. All right.
Yes,
Well,
yeah.
thanks for that input. Great.
Well, I mean, I didn't have my hand up.
Fair enough.
I don't remember if we said like, was this a good thing for a working session or what the, I don't remember the outcome of the discussion from the previous meeting. Maybe it's in the notes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check the notes. We even have notes for last week.
I do recall different folks having very different opinions on the matter.
Yeah.
And perspectives, both, ethical and legal and
Yeah. No, absolutely.
good faith.
Did we talk about this in the or did we
We had
end
a
up talking
working
about this in the
session. I
working
think
session?
what we discussed is taking it to our member legal counsel and get some guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
getting
did
feedback.
discuss this in the working session. Yes.
And then I think the
That's what
feedback from 2 weeks ago is let's define the kinds of questions and needs
Yes.
that our developers and maintainers want, so we can feed that to the attorneys. So further clarify what that is. I mean, I think
So
high level, I think there's consensus, yes, AI, but again, how that
yeah, no,
double,
and
triple click,
yes,
yeah.
you're right. Would this end up in a working session?
Working
It doesn't
session,
matter.
yeah, with the board, yeah.
Like 3 weeks ago or something.
This is the strategy meeting.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we need to work on a doc together to clarify the kind of questions we want to have answers to.
Correct.
Chris.
I'll just mention that this has also been under significant discussion at TC39 and ECMA. And of course, standards are not necessarily the exact same thing as, code for software. But there are some parallels. I will note that ECMA sometimes defers to ISO policies because various standards are cross-published between both ECMA and ISO. And they have their guidance. The document it's actually pretty long. I can link it, probably should. But crucially, it does say, hey, you can use LLMs to help you, blah, blah, blah. But there's a very hard line drawn, and that line is you cannot use the content generated from it in anything. You can use it to I don't know, help you form your ideas or whatever. But you absolutely cannot include any generative AI content in any kind of ISO things, internal or external. So, the way that I kind of view this, if you were to apply that to code, would be oh, hey, I'm trying to solve this problem, and you could get ideas on how to solve the problem, but you can't just copy paste the exact thing that the LLM is spitting out. And that's also been the same guidance that we've gotten or at least my organization has gotten at IBM when it comes to code examples online, whether that's Stack Overflow or whatever, that you can't, copy paste somebody else's thing. You can look at it to see how they solved a problem, but you can't just reuse that verbatim.
Yeah, let's not get into that debate now. I think because if not, we're going to spend 20 minutes on it. Because I as you said, people have different opinions on this. I think it's useful input to share in the thread. But I think what we need, what would be useful, is to have questions to the kind, actually write the questions we want answers to from legal on this, rather than have opinions on it. Because I mean, standards and code fairly different in terms of what they're trying to protect. And you're going to have very different opinions on this depending on who you ask.
Can
So
we spend 5 minutes now bouncing out questions?
you want to ask, you want to do that? And I think that's useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I was not expressing any opinions. I was
No, sure.
stating what ISO policies are, and that could be
fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough. No, I read it as very opinionated. My bad. Really. But I think asking a bunch of questions now would be useful, actually. And I think sort of raising I mean, if we want to spend 5 minutes doing that right now, I think that would be super useful. One of the things that I've heard that has nothing to do with the legal aspects of this at all is people get a bunch of there's a real we're getting a bunch of junk pull requests because of AI, right? Much like you're getting a bunch of critical CVEs because of AI. It's the same kind of problem, right? It makes it easier to contribute and also to mass contribute. And so that could be, I don't know how to frame this as a question, but that's something that I'm seeing come up and that I think we should address. Do folks have other questions that come to mind you want to discuss right now, or?
Like how to turn the influx of junk PRs into a question?
Yeah, it's a meta question around that. Yes, I don't know how to frame this in a question. I don't think it's I mean, is this even a question that we need to ask legal? Or is this something that the CPC could state on? Is it okay to reject or is it okay to have a policy that a pure LLM should be rejected, or rejected as like clearly AI garbage. Is this okay? Something like this. Chris, is this in your hand?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to distinguish when we ask these questions between what sort of contributions, right? And this again, this is something that's coming up in other forums where, you know, the answer may very well be different in terms of like whether we're talking about code or whether we're talking about somebody creating an issue for a discussion. You know, some people are really strongly have really strong feelings about they don't want to be fielding issues and comments from people that are clearly been generated from an LLM. And that's a very different thing than code contributions that were generated in whole or in part by generative AI. So this, I just keep in mind that
No,
distinction
good point. Yeah.
we're talking about, to not lump everything together as, is this okay? Because I think it's, the answer is going to be different depending on what sort of contribution and communication we're talking about.
Megan?
My gut reaction to the junk PR situation was like spam is like still a valid reason to reject a PR, regardless of the way it was produced. But like one piece of nuance that I've seen is like it really, there's like a spectrum of quality, and a lot of these PRs kind of land in a spot on that spectrum where it's very muddy to tell whether or not that particular contributor like should just get the PR closed or like should get mentorship and along these lines type of thing. And that calculus can be a big part of like what makes it difficult.
Adrian?
Well, I think we need to have that discussion, obviously, but not just about producing code with AI, but also about using AI-powered tools to help maintainers. Let's take, for example, the case of CodeRabbit, which is a member of the foundation. They got in touch and they are help offering their service for projects. Is a tool that could help maintainers to curate pull requests and get some feedback. They can, it add like a considerable amount of help. We are using it internally here and not certainly has been great experience. And this tool can, be very useful for properly maintaining open source projects. So it's not just about generating code with AI, it's also about using these AI powered tools. Like there are many other tools being, implemented, like for testing, like for code coverage. There are different offerings that are being developed right now. So I think we definitely need to have like a more extended discussion where we cover not just producing code and what we are going to do with the code produced by AI, but if we are going to allow, other usages for these technologies.
Yeah, important aspect too. Any other questions? I mean, questions. Any other thoughts of like what we should have clarified? Ulysses?
Yeah, regarding like content generation, like but doesn't matter if it's code or just reply to an issue or whatever, right? Any kind of interaction where the people use AI. The thing is like we try to discuss if the people can use these tools in the way to help them. For example, in my case, that I'm not a native English speaker, so sometimes I use AI to help me polish the stuff on English, so just translate the stuff when I need it. So that's also very useful. So is this kind of interaction kind of okay? I mean, outside of this, or we are discussing on pure AI generated stuff, like, just create a PR for me and automatically happen with, so that's also my question in terms of the scope for the discussion, because I think it's very different, or different parts of the same discussion probably.
Yeah, I think this is the point that Chris was making, is that we use LLMs or like Gen AI for a whole bunch of different things. And depending on what it is that you're using it for, it has like very different impact. And so it makes it harder to write a policy, right? Like Ben is suggesting that in the document in the chat, frame this as how to allow AI assisted development rather than if it is allowed. It's a much more positive framing. I like it. Megan?
A question for legal I would have is, if it is determined that the policy is that it is not allowed, about documenting what the procedures / repercussions are for like potentially getting it wrong. Like if the policy is that like it's not allowed, then like what happens if like a commit or a PR gets in that did use it and that is like discovered later?
Wes?
Yeah, I think building on top of sort of that kind of sentiment, it feels like a losing battle to even have a policy. I understand that we're trying to do the due diligence here, but the industry at large probably should sort this out, not us. I know we are in some ways, right, representatives of, in a lot of ways, the industry at large, whatever that means, right? But I just don't think it's our problem to solve here. And we represent a fairly small, in the scheme of things, we're very important, but fairly small group of projects. And like, if the Linux Foundation decides to take a stance, fine, right? We would follow that. But I feel like we're gonna circle on this. And then even if we ask the lawyer, actually probably like the lawyer's job is probably to tell us gray area, don't do it. Right. And like this is like you always oftentimes you want to be very careful before you loop in the lawyers, right? Because ask for forgiveness sometimes, right? And in this case, like everybody's doing this kind of stuff. So it's a pretty, I think it's just going to be a pretty difficult topic for us as a group to form a clear and coherent, specifically. That's like, we could make a policy, right? But if it's like, no, like if we say no, then like a lot of developers are going to be really annoyed and kind of questioning whether that makes any sense when like they're allowed to do it at work. Some people, not, everybody, not everybody company is going to have the same, type policy, but like they're going to have valid questions, right? And we're not lawyers, we shouldn't, have to be. And so to me, I think like based on the conversation last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, and this one, I haven't heard anything that's convincing to me that we need to even ask a lawyer. Like, I think we just say we have no stance on this as of yet. I don't know. Like, that just feels like an easier path than trying to nitpick. Was this one, fully LLM copy and paste? Like, what was the old PRs fully copy and paste from Stack Overflow? Like, probably that as well, right? Like, and we don't have an opinion there. So I just feel like this whole topic is going to just suck a bunch of time for no real like answers.
So, just quick comment on Wes's comment before I give the floor to you, Chris. the LF actually has a policy that's linked in the issue. And the policy is fairly straightforward. I think that the policy didn't address a number of questions that the community has. And those questions are like so obvious for a lawyer. Like the answer to those are usually so obvious for a lawyer that like they will not even like write it down. And I think part of what's missing is this, right? And so, and so I think part of the exercise is being like, what are the questions that people have around LLMs? What's okay, what's not? So that we can have a definitive answer to them that's a bit more beefed up than what the LF's thing does, because the LF's policy essentially says you're good as long as you're not doing anything silly, right? If I sort of like summarize it, it kind of that's what kind of what it is. And it relies on a bunch of assumptions that people understand about how copyright works, et cetera, that are really not obvious unless you've like spent too much time looking at this stuff. So I think I understand your perspective, and I actually think that the viewpoint of lawyers on this topic is fairly well understood. And there's like, what you're describing, Wes, is like fairly the common take. But I believe like actually explaining why certain things one way would avoid us having these conversations on a regular basis. Like, hey, says so in the policy. You have maybe it's more of an FAQ really than a policy. Chris.
Yeah, I am sensitive to the fact that we're doing exactly what Toby didn't want to do. But just on Wes's, I do agree with Wes to some extent. That it's not on us to come up with something overly broad and have all the answers to all like the minutia. But everyone has these questions, and so some guidance, even if it's minimal, is like important. And I don't think we could just throw up our hands and say whatever and ignore it, because there are legal implications. And once you say be careful about what you loop in the lawyers about, you lose your plausible deniability there. You claim that you didn't know there were legal things in play at that point. But in terms of closing the loop on this, I think come up with what are the questions that we're trying to answer, measure them against the existing LF policy. If they were answered by that, we can note how they were answered by that, and anything that we still have questions about, we can follow up those with the legal folks.
All right, so let's just dump those notes and the last notes we have into this issue, and try to get like a set of questions from the community into a doc. And maybe we should do a working session on this. All right, working session. All right. I also feel like these are topics that once we have clarity, would be good topics for us to talk about and communicate to the broader community, because it's questions that people ask all the time, right? And so if we have good, simple answers to like some of the key questions, it's valuable content to share. Should we move on? Yeah, 1486. Batched policies. Batching policies. Again, like we didn't copy over the notes in the minutes last time. And I'm going to do that after this call because it's a mess when we don't. If I remember correctly, the conversation here ended as, well, it would be great to this was also a working session. While it would be great to organize this really, really well, it's going to take a lot of time and energy. And maybe we shouldn't couple updating those different policies, et cetera, was actually getting something organized on an annual basis. And I think as a result, the idea was, this is great. Let's think about how we could do this, but let's continue moving the different issues forward independently. So what it actually means for these different issues, they all have cross-project council tabs. What do we do with this one? Like, do we park it for a while? Do we try to move it forward in a session? Like, it felt like we had lots of ideas when we chatted about this in the working session last time, but like none of them were very realistic in terms of implementation. So I'm just wondering, like, what to do with it. This is not something that anyone wants to make a decision about.
Well, one option here would be to maybe work towards an end of the year update. So we continue working on these tasks as you suggested. And then maybe we work towards like a end of the year wrap up / update or something for projects and use that as sort of a timeline.
I kind of like that. What would it look like? Like a small survey,
but
something like this? Yeah,
well,
sure.
I mean, I think it's going to be a mix, right? Like there's, I think some of the intent behind this batch updates was to communicate to projects changes to policies that have occurred, over the course of some period of time, and to continue to engage with our projects, even those that are less engaged. So, maybe this is targeted communications. Maybe it's we call them not open house. I
All
can't think of
hands.
this term.
Town halls.
Town hall, all hands, beer and tell, you name it, right? One of those. So yeah, I think there's we can come up with an appropriate venue for this. Probably more than one venue to hit most folks, but yeah.
And I think the intent is, let's not boil the ocean, but we do have a lot of content that we'd want to share with the projects, information coming in from security to all kinds of things. So onboarding, I think that was the result of the working group. Let's not boil the ocean. Let's get the big chunks done that we can right now instead of trying to lump them all together.
All right, so we would open a new issue to start organizing like an end of year town hall plus
project
update, something like this.
Yep, sounds good.
Can anyone open an issue on this topic?
I didn't raise my hand for that. I raised it as you were saying it, but I wanted to offer, I think it'd be really neat too, because I think we talked about this last time, is like we need some sort of hook to get folks to show up, right? Like not everybody on all these projects likes to show up to the meetings and stuff. So maybe if we're doing this format, maybe we could add in some sort of like, if you are interested, tell us about what you all did this year, sort of thing. Because I think that would be, I think maintainers probably would enjoy sharing that, and then thus also hearing what all the other projects have been doing over the year. So like if it was a two-way, I guess what I was trying to say is it's not just the CPC disseminating information to the projects. It'd be great if I just feel like we'll get a lot more engagement if it's sort of a two-way deal.
I really like that too. How could we? Yeah. All right, let's this. I think this is an interesting topic too. How to get folks a bit more involved. Now, like, do we need to create a new issue? Just like have this conversation here, or maybe we can just have this conversation here? Like continue in this one, or I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the best. Yeah, you're right. Time check.
Maybe doing a working session topic on this to like put together an agenda and brainstorm a couple extra ideas around what would draw
Yeah.
folks.
I'm concerned that we're organizing the same working sessions than last time, and just maybe this is what we should have done, is like spend more time on each. Maybe that's what they both need. So I think I agree it's the right move. I think we need to decide what to spend the next working session on, and actually spend it on one topic and try to get to a closure for that topic. Because if we do half, then we don't get anything done. With that in mind, what do you think is the most important one for the next working session? Would you want to work on this or on the AI stuff? All right, raise your hand for AI. All right. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, raise your hand for better communication with CPC projects. I'm still going to raise my hand. So, okay. So next time is AI. Of course, AI wins. I mean, the only contender could have been blockchain.
I think it's critical to actually discuss that. I mean, we can't just be blind with what is currently happening.
So next working session is on AI. All right, cool. What are the key topics that we need to discuss? We talked about 1472 already. Project charter approval for so that's 1484. What's the status of this?
I thought they had a bunch of approvals.
Are we good with this?
I'm just taking a look at the PR for the change and see if there's anything.
Oh, we're still waiting for a bunch of input. So answers to questions like Jordan had a question 2 weeks ago that there's not an answer to.
Oh, would it be wise to time limit memberships?
Yeah, I feel like there's still do they have a champion?
Chris Gervang and Ib Green, in the OpenViz team. But from this
Because
group,
I see still like a bunch of like open questions that are not being addressed.
Technically, Claudio did have some questions, but he also approved it. So that suggests that those are not like blockers for the PR. Jordan's, I don't know, because then he's not here to elaborate. But yeah, it would be great if we could just ping the native script TSC to. It doesn't seem like they don't seem to be that terribly difficult questions to answer.
wait, are we in native script or Cosmos?
No, we're still in Cosmo.
Right.
Yeah.
God. Okay. Yeah, we need to prioritize those two charters next time. Absolutely. Because we're taking way too much time to do these things. And there's like a bunch of there's back and forth is not great. And it's unclear to me if we have all of the it looks like some of the things are addressed.
The Cosmos one seems even clearer though, because Claudio, Jordan, and Mateo all approved. Toby had some responses, but they made changes in response to your comments.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it seems reasonable. Do people feel like we can improve it as is, or like what's the overall feeling? Or you want to wait another 2 weeks and then like,
I mean, it appears to be approved as is, outside of, Toby,
All
you
right.
yourself are the only one that reviewed it that technically didn't approve, but, so
I think
unless
I
have
think my
objections-
comments must have been fixed. Okay, yeah, I think that my comments have been addressed. Okay, I think we should just say it's okay. So let's approve this one. Let's do native script next time, and let's move into. I think we need to move to the private session right now. Is there anything that we absolutely need to address before that? No. Yes.
I don't think so.
No. All right. So let's move into the private session, and let's make sure that the next CPC call we go through the whole thing, and don't talk about copyright for too long. All right.
All right.
Folks,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Yes, I was going to say bye, but it stopped, so we're good.